Welcome to Fun is Fundamental. Fun is Fundamental is a podcast for those who realize that the enjoyment of life is about having something deep in our souls which lights our fire. It's for those who maybe have lost that fire and feel like they are missing out on the pleasures of life. In each episode, I will share recent fun activities and focus on why having fun is essential for good health. I'm your host, Alenia, and I invite you to take this journey with me and join the pleasure-seeking movement. Hi, today's guest is Jenn Johnson, and she is a longtime registered nurse in the ER, and we have just a really interesting conversation about her career and about intuition and burnout, and I hope they enjoy it. And just so you are aware why suddenly we go from one conversation to talking about Murphy's Law. There was a little bit of technical difficulty, and I just cut out like a little chunk because it wasn't really very relevant. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the episode. How are you doing, Jenn? How are you doing this morning?
I am doing so well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Yeah. It's nice right now, but we're gonna get a storm soon.
Oh no, and we're cooling right down in Canada, so down to almost freezing this morning. Almost, not quite, but she's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. You get a lot of snow where you are.
It's very hit or miss. So because we're Niagara region, and the lake effect, we don't typically get a ton of snow this time around. Usually January we get a ton of snow. February, yes.
Mm-hmm.
March is hit or miss. But every Christmas, it's like, is it going to be a green Christmas? Is it going to be a white Christmas? And it back and forth year by year. It's just one or the other. So it's not, your typical what people think Canada is.
Yeah. 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 I mean, like we're pretty far north, but because we're marine, because I'm in the Seattle area, we some years we like barely get any snow, like where we are. And then some years, but usually it's February. February is when we get the most
Yeah.
snow.
Yeah.
For us, because like usually like if we occasionally we'll get an early snow, but like I experienced like two white Christmases probably in my life, kind of thing,
Oh my God, that's not enough.
I know
Is it
it's not
just
enough.
slush mainly?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in like January, usually it's really dry. And so we get
Mhm.
like down like negative, I mean, Celsius.
I know
I don't
it's
know. In the negatives. I
in the
don't know.
negatives. That's
I
enough. That's
yeah.
enough for me. I understand.
Yeah. Because I'm like, how cold is 18 degrees Fahrenheit? I have no idea in
I don't
Celsius.
know.
So
I know that I'm comfortable at 74, 76 when I travel, and then it's like the all the thermostats are Fahrenheit. You're like, oh, here we go. And you're trying it on your app, just like, what's happening here? What's
yeah.
going on?
Where do I want this?
Am
I
I
don't know.
sweating? Am I freezing? What's happening? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, and I wonder why at this point the United States is still just so like stubborn to like not switch over from imperial. Like,
I think you guys are just you've set a standard and you're just going for it,
yeah.
and you're just fully 100% just going with it to be like, no, we've made our bed, we're gonna live
Yeah,
in
we're just gonna we never like turn around, we're
no
just like,
no it's
nope, we're
just
going to
forward.
the ends.
It is only forward. There's no corrections. There's just straightforward, which I
Yeah.
mean, good on you for being, your own people, and
Yeah.
and you're unique in that way, sure. Um, and it's just kind of funny that most Americans I've talked to don't try to convert. So thank you for trying to convert.
I
Most
mean,
people
I'm
they're just like
aware.
most people
That's
are just
different.
like, yeah, 18. And I'm like, for me, that's actually an average day. Like that's not super warm. It's not super cold either, but I'm going around in a t-shirt. Where, I'm like, oh no, you mean Fahrenheit. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
And it's
wait a
like,
second.
oh, that's different. That's a whole different day.
But yet I assume that I have to convert for people, which when I'm talking to Americans, it's so funny that I like, oh, meters, kilometers, and like you're just trying to like, oh, what is this again? I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that really comes down to the like Americans feeling like we're the center of the universe kind of
I
thing.
mean, it's a thing that happens a lot. Not all, obviously, not all,
Yeah.
but it's very much kind of the American persona that the world revolves around you guys.
Hmm.
Which, and to a point, a lot of stuff does. So it's like, okay, you can get away with a little bit, but every now and
Yeah.
again, you're just like, well, wait a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Well, I remember I used to live in Korea and I knew some Canadians and this one guy always forgot that I was American. And
Oh no.
he's just like you're like an honorary Canadian because you're just so nice. And I'm just
Right? And the so have you seen the new map since the election, how they've like the Canada's now like come down to like
to like the West
California,
Coast.
and it's like on the coast it's kind of come down. We're just gonna assume this, we will be fine. It'll be
Yeah.
it'll be fine. We'll just assume the outers.
Yes. We're going to join
We're
you.
just, I
Yeah.
mean, the joke about, Canadians taking on or adopting Americans has started again, as it had, 8 years ago. And so we're just like, oh yeah, it's that time again. It's, we're gonna offer to open our homes to the Americans fleeing.
Yes. I mean, this time is I think even more so. There's so many people that are like, okay, where can I go? We're
Yes.
leaving. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently the US to Canada immigration site, like of the Canadian government, the portion of the Canadian government website actually went down that night.
Oh, gee. Oh
Yeah.
man.
So just as an aside, and yeah. I'm like, well, with if you want to try and afford housing up this way, you'll do okay because of the exchange rate, but like housing is exceedingly expensive up this way, so it's just kind of like, is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, unless you want to like live in a very
Saskatchewan,
small.
lots
Yeah.
of lots
I was
of
gonna
land
say
in Saskatchewan,
Saskatchewan.
lots of area in Manitoba, I'm sure. There's lots of
Hmm.
like middle land. Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
same. I mean, it's really the same as in the United States.
Yes.
Housing where I am is so expensive, but you go to the
Yes.
middle, so it's
Middle's
so
fine.
cheap. Yeah, yeah,
Idaho, sure. Yeah, just get in there.
yeah. But then it's like, oh, well, now you're living in Idaho.
Yes. And then you're going, okay, well, and it's one of those things where you're like, what's the weather like? Can I stand the weather? Then you have to factor in, okay, deadly animals versus tornadoes and earthquakes. Okay, maybe that's why housing's so cheap, is because you guys are rebuilding every couple years. I don't know.
Hmm.
Like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely like some places that I'm just like, I don't want to live there. That's like I
To be fair, there's places where I'm like, oh, don't necessarily want to visit.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, like we're like always in the we could have the big earthquake that's going to kill us all at any time, or
Yeah.
this volcano is going to erupt at any time. Like it's
Yep.
due kind of thing. Like there's always
Yeah.
this doom, like just like,
I,
you
I feel
know,
like as elder
hovering over
millennials,
us.
we're so past it that we're just like, what now? Like, what
Mhm.
can you throw at us? Like, sure, you wonder why we all don't get upset about stuff. It's because we're just so far past the point of reacting that we can't get our emotions involved unless it literally is the world ending at this exact moment. We don't have the mental capacity for it anymore. We just, oh, sure, World War III. I mean, all right, another pandemic. All right, you know, all this kind of stuff. And you're just like, well, okay, we're just gonna roll with it because what else can you do?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. But also, I guess it's like one of those things where it's like, at least I don't live in a place where like every year we're potentially
Yes.
having a tornado. Like
Yes.
that's a whole different thing, you know.
That's a whole other. So I actually was in Orlando when Helene came in. And so, flights are being canceled and I'm being pushed back a day and I'm going like, oh, like I've never been in a tornado or a hurricane. Like how worried should I be? So I'm looking around, I'm like, where are the Floridians? Where are they at? Where are the locals? Because if the locals aren't worried, I am going to be less worried. And everybody was like, do, and just hanging out, and everybody's still like sitting out at the pool, and the majority of everything's open, and there was only one ride closed at Universal. So I'm like, okay, all right, like if Universal's still open, I'm feeling like we're okay.
Yeah. You would think that if like, this is like the big, like a really big one, that they'd be like, okay, we're gonna close,
Yes, we're gonna hunker down.
gonna hunker
Everybody go to your
down.
rooms, everybody hunker down.
Yeah.
And that never happened. It was just like do, just kind of on with the day. And I'm like, oh, all right. So I get an extra day to just kind of hang out and relax and do nothing. All
That's
right.
nice. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I've got friends up here. We're like, every year we wish to be pushed back so that we get to stay longer. And I'm like, really? They're like, it never happens. I'm like, that's because you want it to happen. I was like, no, I got to get home. Like, I got to get to work. Like, I had to call in sick for work because I was supposed to be flying home the one night and then working the next night, and like a set of like 6 nights in a row. Because I was like, oh, I had to go to this conference, and then, it's costly. So I got to work when I come back. So it's
Yeah.
like, that's 6 nights in a row. And I'm like, well, okay, maybe now it's just 5 nights in a row. And I was so mixed up. I kept waking up thinking, I've got to get to the conference. Is it exhibitor hours? I've got to get on the plane. I've got to do something. I've got to prep. It took a week to kind of actually feel like I wasn't on the go, and I was waking up where I actually was. And I'm sure that the night shifts did not help things.
No.
Not in
No.
the slightest. Yeah.
No, not at all. Actually, that brings me to like, uh, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Oh yeah, sure.
We're just
A
having this whole
huge
conversation. It's just
sidebar.
like,
We're just
oh,
like, it's lit. You wanted conversational. Here's conversational for you.
yeah.
So I'm Jen. I'm an ER nurse out of Hamilton, Ontario. I've been doing the ER for 16 years now. I've worked in hospitals, big and small enough where I'm the only nurse in the ER, to trauma centers, to stroke centers, pediatric ER departments, the whole kit and caboodle. And worked during COVID and burned out super, super hardcore, and ended up writing a book thinking that I wasn't going to survive it. So started writing down stories for my kids. This is why mom chose to continue to go to work. And in writing the really good stories, there was a couple of those that came up really quite easily, but it was all the traumatic things that I really just stuck down deep for the last, ever, that started to bubble up. And with those stories came kind of the wondering about, um, why is this all coming up right now? Why is this the things that are being pushed to the surface? And is it just because I'm no longer in a place mentally where I can push it down? Or is it just time that we actually deal with this and have it come up? And so going through the stories, reliving those scenarios, the the theme that seemed to just kind of run straight through was just this little thread of intuition and trusting your gut. And every story, was a little bit different in, did I trust my gut? Did I not? Did I say anything? Did I not? Was I believed? Was I not? And so trying to think about it and go like, okay, so it's all these stories, and these are the ones that are sticking around. So why are these ones the ones that are sticking around? And it's like, well, it's every time intuition was involved in one way or another. And so now what does that mean? What does that look like? And thinking about, it was August of 2020 by the time I finished writing it, and was just thinking about like, okay, in this age of misinformation, disinformation, I would love to put out this theory of, nursing intuition and trusting your gut and how it's an actual real thing, and we need to lean into it. I can't do that without science. I really cannot, especially at this time. So I went on a deep dive into all these different journals, into physiology, into psychology, into sociology, into all these different areas about, is it insight? Is it intuition? Is it more metaphysical? Like what angle are we coming at it from? And the overwhelming science was not only there about intuition, but specifically intuition in nursing. There were, several papers on nursing intuition, how it presents and how it's listened to or not, and is it valid or is it not, and these kind of things. And so, going through the papers, I'm like, okay, well, if the science is behind intuition, then nursing says that if the science is there and it's evidence-based, we need to be teaching it. So this is my hope, is that now that there's science behind it, that I can be the first one to stand up openly and say, yes, there's intuition in nursing. The physicians usually call it spidey sense. We don't typically call it intuition. We call it trusting our gut. And any woman above the age of 12 knows this feeling intimately. You're walking and there's a guy come up and you're like, ugh, creep factor, and you just trust your gut and you go with it. And it's a survival technique, but in the sense of nursing and medicine, it's your patient surviving, it's not you. So it's a little bit harder to pick up on. It's a little bit harder of a skill to kind of begin to lean into if you're not told about it.
Is there like things that you can teach uh, nurses about how to lean into? Like, are there tools to help them lean into their intuition that is naturally occurring, but now they're trying to use it in a different way?
Yeah. So as soon as you get that feeling, first and foremost is just realizing that you're having that sensation. Is it a heaviness in your gut? Is it an idea that pops into your head? Is it just this overwhelming sensation that something's not right? Um, it's those kind of feelings that we just need to give a little bit more time to. And so all that I ask is that, when those things come up, to realize that they're happening, because that's half the issue, is just to realize that they're happening. The other half is then, what are you going to do about it? Are you comfortable enough to go to either a colleague or a physician and say, hey, I just don't know about Mrs. X, there's something going on there, I'm just not certain. Could you come and look? And the science with that. So even if the nurse does that and they're wrong, just the physician coming and having another touch point on that patient still improves patient outcomes. So no matter what, it's still a win-win situation, because you're not going to be right all the time. And that's just one of those things where you have to get comfortable in being wrong. And truly, you being wrong means the patient's actually not that sick. So it's a pretty great win, for being wrong.
Yes.
So just being able to lean in, to realize it's happening, and then to be able to do something about it. So is there somebody that you can talk to? And if you're not wanting to talk to somebody else, even just then being extra vigilant with that patient, to maybe they get to a point of deteriorating to a point where you're like, oh no, I do really need to say something now. And then it's like, well, now I feel like I don't have an option. Now it's not really like, I don't know. Now it's, oh no, for sure, this is something's up. The patient's deteriorating. I do need to talk to the doctor, because now it's my job. So it's a bit of a different take, but yeah, I'm just trying to help people, just give it a name and then realize that there's a lot of science behind it. And anybody, well, any nurse with a few years experience has usually felt this and may or may not have done anything about it. But those with like 5, 10, 15 years experience, we don't not give it attention. We go, oh no, like we feel like something's off. We're going to tell the doc, we're just going to cover our behinds at that point. And, 9 times out of 10, you're right that something was brewing, and now you can just get ahead of it.
Definitely. Um, in your experience, have you been well supported in with your physicians and things like that, like supporting when you are have an inkling about something?
Yeah. So they get to know you, right? Like if you're in any one spot for a few years, the docs get to know you, they get to know your practice, they get to know kind of who you are as a person. So when I do go up to my docs and say, hey, I don't know about this, can you just come see? Like there's 2 different tracks usually. So if I know the doc and the patient's really sick, I'll just come up to them and be like, hey, John, I need you to come and see my patient now. Like we're going to crash in about 30 minutes. So if you could just kind of, let's go. Um, I need you to stop what you're doing right now, and I need you to see this patient ASAP. versus maybe a doc I don't know to be like, hey, I'm Jen, I'm charge nurse today. I just want you to know that there is this really sick patient that I've just brought into recess. If you could come see them next, that would be really great. I just don't have a great sense that, something's off kind of thing. And there's different ways to kind of play it also, right? Like, do you come at it from kind of the very the very demure, like, I just don't know and I'm just not sure and I need your support and I need your help and I just want to know what you think. That's always really well tolerated versus like I don't necessarily go up to be like, oh my God, screaming at me to say that, this patient's going to crash.
Sure.
Again, it depends on your doc. It depends on how well you know them and this kind of thing, because you get to know what you can say around who. And people have well, everybody knows that that I've wrote this book and this is kind of the tangent that I'm on currently. So they all go, "Oh, is it your gut this time?" I'm like, "Actually, yes. Can we go? We got to go. And it's not like it's happening every shift. Sometimes you'll go weeks without, a really decent ping where you're like, oh no, like it's a full stop. Sometimes you'll just get inklings where you're like, I don't know. Like you're just kind of on the fence about it and you're just kind of wavering. Where you're like, okay, I'm just going to be a little extra thorough. I'm just going to keep an extra eye on them. I'm just not sure. Versus the holy crap, you need to be seen this instant. Something's up. And, you know, people could be presenting quite well, but maybe the story is concerning. Maybe their vitals are concerning, but they actually look quite well. There's a lot of different clinical scenarios where, it's an emergency, but the patient looks pretty well. And other times where the patient looks absolutely awful, but their vitals are fine. And you're going, a lot of times it's more, those outlier areas where people either look really well and have really, worrisome either story or vital signs, or they just look awful. Like their skin tone, it's got a gray or a green undertone to it. But maybe their story isn't that concerning or the vitals are okay. It's just, realizing how soon you need to act and then kind of jumping on that bandwagon. But for the most part, once I kind of say, I just need your help, and, to reframe it, I'm just advocating for my patient. And that's part of my job is to advocate for my patient and their well-being. And so you can always, if you're having a hard time kind of swallowing down the idea of, trusting your gut or intuition per se, just, pivot a little bit. And it's really just advocating. It's just using one more skill that tends to be a little less talked about, as that trigger for you advocating for them.
Yeah. Do you think sometimes, I mean, obviously everyone has like some intuition in general. Do you think sometimes it's easier to advocate for like someone else, like you using your intuition for someone else than it is for yourself? I know sometimes
100%.
people like totally like will just like push away things or like, oh, I can't.
And we're all bad like that. Like, how often do you actually sit back and go like, well, I know that this is a really bad habit, or I know that this is, something that really is not serving me in the long term. Like, I know that my phone is a horrible addiction. I've got a horrific gaming addiction, and the alcohol is like, I teeter on minute by minute, depending on the shift kind of thing. Do I know that those things aren't great for me? Absolutely. But do I rationalize away why I'm doing it? 100%. So it's very much so much easier to rationalize, standing up for somebody else's health than your own, even your well-being in general. I can stand up for another nurse's well-being and you know kind of go, it's 7:30, like you're 30 minutes past your shift, you need to go, you need to go home. If I have to physically walk you off this unit, I'm gonna do it because you need to go. Like you're always, and some nurses, especially when they're kind of getting their footing, oh, I just need to do this one last thing. I just need to do this one last thing. I can promise you there will always be one more thing to do, in any place of work, let alone the hospital setting. So, the working mentality in the ER is you do what you can do in 12 hours and then you walk away. And that's all that you can do. You can set up your patients as best you can. But again, if somebody is coming in crashing, it's all hands on deck and you're leaving your patients kind of behind because they're the weller of the two scenarios. So, and when that happens at 6 o'clock, when everybody is getting ready to go home for 7, um, you're going to miss out on those little things like, emptying the catheters or restocking the carts, or the stupid little niggly things that are nice to do for your fellow nurse, and are kind of expectations, but it's not a life or death issue. That was a life or death issue. Me stocking the cart was not a life or death issue.
Mhm.
The number of times that I've emptied catheters for other people because they've had the same situation happen to them is countless. We do it all the time. So do what you can do with the time that you've got and then walk away. Try to tee yourself up as best as possible. Make sure that charting is done at least like an hour before you go if you can, just so that there's more recent charting. And especially in the ER, if there's something to be done, do it right away because you never know what's going to come through the door in 3 seconds or less.
For sure.
Yeah.
Um, do you think that, I mean, because you're still obviously nursing, even though
Yeah.
you were dealing with burnout, did writing the book kind of help you with your burnout?
Oh, it was so cathartic. It absolutely. So I still, to this minute, am debating whether or not to light the first copy on fire because there was so much trauma in those pages, that I'm, very much very much let it go. It's done. It's out into the world. It's out of your hands at this point, kind of thing. And kind of putting an end to those years. But it's hard because those years formed me into who I am. So it's really messed up dichotomy of wanting to finally walk away from the trauma and then realizing that the trauma had its purpose, years later. So it's same with COVID, finally putting my foot down and setting some boundaries and dropping down to part-time and picking up some agency nursing and finally being paid what I'm worth hourly versus, the salaried wage kind of thing. And, you know, everything happens for a reason. It's very much a personal motto. And so if you can try and find the smallest of silver linings in what you're going through, and granted, sometimes you're not going to find it for years, until you finally can take a full step away from the emotions of what's happened and go, okay, so that sucked. That sucked so hard. But what did I learn? What did I get out of it? What did I gain? Well, I gained some trauma for sure, but I also gained some knowledge. And that knowledge, you know, while it was hard earned, will serve me well in the very long term. So, not um, just doing my shifts and walking away during COVID, just you do what you got to do for the 12 hours and you walk away. Nobody's calling in sick, nobody's putting in overtime. Because at the beginning we all thought, if we get sick, we need to save our sick days for if we're intubated and in the ICU.
Mhm.
So nobody called in sick unless you were sick, 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 or had an exposure and were starting to have symptoms and it was too early to test or you're waiting for your test to come back kind of thing. um, you know, Everybody just showed up. And it was a remarkable thing because, you know, we were just like, everyone's like, oh my God, you guys are heroes. And we're like, ugh, we're just, we're doing a job. And it very much solidified in a lot of nursing minds that this is just a job. Like, I am not willing to die for this career. And I like to say career and not calling because while there are some who feel like they're called to it, and more power to you, to me it is a career. It's a great career. It's a fantastic, with so many opportunities and bridges and routes to go down, but it's a career. And it just so happens that it's a career that also intersects at some people's worst times in their lives. But I can't let that, you try not to bring it home as much as you can, but you can't help not bring some scenarios home that hit way too close. And sometimes they kind of just break through your shield a little bit and you go, oh, that one's gonna stick for a while. And that's fine. Like we're all human. We're gonna feel what we're gonna feel, and some scenarios will affect us differently than others. But we need to try and realize that, we're not the good nurse for carrying trauma. We're not the good nurse for being the one to carry everybody else's weight. We're not the good nurse for killing ourselves while trying to save others. There was a cartoon from some paper that had come out during COVID, and it was a picture of a nurse in full PPE gear, 100% underwater, and they were holding up a bed with the patient on top over the water, but they were drowning in the meantime. And
Mhm.
it's an absolute perfect representation of how nursing feels a lot of the time. So getting to the point of saying no more and I'm going to back away and all of this has been a huge shift. And so now with people backing down and putting themselves first, all of a sudden, oh, now we're having this huge nursing shortage. You don't have a nursing shortage. You have a shortage of nurses who are willing to kill themselves for the job. That's what you've got a shortage of. And
Mhm.
so if you were to treat your employees well and have, mandatory ratios that you could only get so many sick, so many patients of one level of critical illness to another, that would help immensely keep people. Hiring support services so that the nurses aren't doing everything, taking stuff off the nursing plate so that nurses can nurse and do what we're supposed to be doing instead of just being super task oriented.
Mhm. I know in the United States, there's a big for-profit thing. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, that I think probably has played into the whole nursing
Oh, absolutely.
shortage because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, we have to make more money
Right. Oh, the CEO
at
needs
the
his
expense
bonus.
of your nurses, at the expense of your patients, everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is also an issue in Canada. I mean, I'm sure that there is probably some for profit, I assume.
So they're trying. There are some places, so there's a clinic in Toronto where if you wanted to pay to get a full pan scan CT and referrals and all the stuff, like you could do that in Quebec there. If you wanted to get a hip or a knee replaced, you could pay $10,000 and get it done very quickly versus waiting for like a year and a half to get that surgery.
Yeah.
Like thank God, there are few and far between. But the for profit is still the budget is still a concern, right? So if we can cut back the ECG techs, well, the nurses can do the ECGs and there's money saved. So now we can try and put that somewhere else. We can cut back on meal sizes. We can cut back on housekeeping staff. The nurses can clean the stretchers once the patient leaves. It's fine. It's all these lab. Oh, the nurse can collect the blood work and then they can send it to lab instead of lab collecting the blood work themselves. And it's just like it's all these things that add another 5, 10, 15 minutes to the nursing um, load per patient. And so now it's okay, they're coming into the ER, I need to triage and then I need to do a set of vitals. And then, well, I know they need blood work, so I got to put in an IV, I got to draw blood work, I'm going to set them up for an ECG, I got to do the ECG, I got to, and it's all task. It's not, it makes it very hard to relate to the patients when your whole drive is task, task, task.
Mm, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. We do a lot of things very superstitiously to try and ward off Murphy's Law.
What are some of the things that you do?
Oh, so it's very common practice that you do not say the Q word. So quiet, slow, bored. Do not say those words in my ER. I don't care if you're staff. I don't care if you're a patient. Do not say those words. You will see the nurse turn on a dime to be like, don't say that. Um, we will move a crash cart closer to a patient room if we think that they might code, just to kind of make sure that it's there. You always have an IV in a patient ready to rock and roll, even if you don't need it, because the second that you don't, you will.
Mm.
Um, what else? I've heard of the ICU or the floors tying knots in there at the foot of the bed to try and prevent somebody from dying. And I'm like, let them die. If they're gonna die, like let these poor people die. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Death is not the enemy. Oh my God. I've heard rumors of, don't bring Chinese food into the department. I don't know what it is about it, but sure enough, the one day I was like, I heard that and I was like, oh, now I really want Chinese. Sure enough, I ordered like DoorDash for Chinese and then the whole department fell apart. Um, you try not to send a nurse home. So if all of a sudden the ER is okay, you're overstaffed or there aren't all of these admit no beds that we normally upstaff for. And you're like, oh, we're going to send a nurse home. You're like, oh, no, don't do that. Because you know that the second you send a nurse home, again, department in chaos. Everything usually happens in threes. So deaths, threes and sevens usually for deaths. And they're in the ER, there's usually a theme to the day. And usually it's decided by about halfway through the shift. So if you're working triage, very quickly there's a theme. Like, is it broken leg day? Is it abdo pain day? Is it chest pain day? Is it head injury day? It takes about three patients, one right after each other. And you're like, oh, well, I guess the theme of the day is head injuries. Fantastic. I would rather a head injury day than a chest pain day, because the chest pain day, you have to repeat blood work 3 to 6 hours after the first draw. And the wait time is extraordinary. So it's like, no, let me, fracture day. Sure. Let's do fracture days, in and outs. Things that don't require a lot of investigations is always an appreciated kind of day.
Sure. It's like, I know exactly what happened. You broke your arm. Great. Like,
fantastic. We don't need to sedate you to re-put it in place. Fantastic. Slab it and go. Slab it and go. The ongoing joke of treat 'em and street 'em is the theme, or the slogan of the ER. Because most of the people who show up to the ER, at least in Canada, in my experience anyways, 50 to 60% could have gone to walk-in clinic, urgent care center, family doctor, and then the other 40 to 50%, probably needed to come in, but like not urgently, or should have come in a week ago.
Why did you put this off for so long?
Oh, the best one I ever heard was this woman came in and she goes, oh, I'm having some shortness of breath. And you're like, okay, so that's a pretty serious complaint. That would be a good reason as to come to the ER. So I'm doing her intake. I'm like, okay, well, how long has the shortness of breath been going on for? 16 years. Pardon? 16 years. Okay. Okay, well, let's worst case scenario. Is it worse today? Do you have a fever? Do you have a cough? Are you coughing up anything? Are you having chest pains along with the shortness of breath? Like anything like that? No. Okay, well, why today? Well, I just had time. In 16 years, you'd have your shortness of breath checked out before that? And then I look at her fingers and they've all got the nicotine on them. I'm like, and how long have you been smoking? Well, 17 years. I'm like, there it is. I'm like, okay, ma'am. We'll register you. It's going to be a long wait, though. Like, sorry about your luck. You should have gone to your doctor, 15 and a half years ago.
Yeah. And then your doctor would have told you, yeah, you should quit smoking.
Yes, exactly.
That is like, oh, now you know how shortness of breath anyway. Great.
Great. Yes. Well, now you've got, a cough and you're hacking up black stuff. Of course you are. Your lungs are finally starting to clear out.
Yeah. But like that's temporary, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's just I actually remember they made a chart one time to actually, from the time it takes to quitting smoking to the time that your lungs actually get back to normal, or normal-ish, was like 6 to 9 months. But it plotted out like all the symptoms that you could expect on your road to recovery kind of thing. And so yeah, the first couple of weeks, coughing up a lot of black junk, trying to clear out your lungs. In 2 weeks, you're starting to breathe a little bit easier. In a month, you're starting to cough less. In 6 weeks, you're noticing that you can actually do a lot more activity. At the 2-month mark, you're noticeably taking in deeper breaths, like all these things up until as you're quitting smoking. So I'm like, oh man, that should be everywhere. And I can't remember, it was some hospital that I saw the flyer for it, but I'm like, oh man, this should be everywhere. Like, truly.
Yeah. My grandma, like, she smoked for 45 years.
Oh.
I mean, at that point, like when she finally quit, like the damage,
so done,
permanent damage. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's good that there's hope for someone who has not been smoking
so
for that long.
if you're, I mean, even if you're like, and I feel like that was even people who've been smoking like 10 plus years, you know, there's still the option to heal. Granted, it's a coping strategy like any other, and who am I to judge with my gaming addiction? But like,
Yeah.
theoretically, it's not altering my physical health, except for maybe my posture is complete crap.
Yeah. Every time my husband sees me like this, he's like, "What are you
Yes.
doing?"
You're just like stand up straight. You're like, oh yeah. And then, you sit up finally and you're like, oh, my back just cracked. You're like, okay, yes, I need to sit up a bit straighter.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've recently been working like a desk job, and I'm finding I really
Ugh,
hate working a desk job. Oh my
can't
goodness,
do
my
it.
back is like, oh, so
I would want,
unhappy.
if I ever had to, I would want one of those balls that you can like roll around on. But that's
Yeah.
more the ADHD in me.
Yeah. Yeah. Like just
I know
moving.
you gotta move.
Moving's nice.
Gotta move.
Yeah. Do you have like a lot of weird stories? And
So
I'm just
many.
curious, do you like did you share some of these weird stories in your book and
Oh,
everything?
absolutely. I mean, ghost stories abound.
Mm.
So many ghost stories and just, little tricks and tidbits and all these kind of things. And so what was the one that I did mostly? Oh, there was so I worked at a pediatric emergency room for about a year. And so you park underground, and then in the underground parking, then there's obviously like an elevator that you can go up. And the one elevator, so there's a bank of four right beside where the ER is. And so, there was two elevators dedicated for staff and patient transport. And then on the other side of them were the two elevators for patients. And so you take the one elevator, and it was like the first out of on the two of the staff side. It was always under construction. They were always trying to fix it. They were doing all these things to it all the time. The whole year that I was there, like this thing was under construction constantly. And so you'd end up using the other staff one to go up and down all the time. Well, when that one that was constantly broken finally was working, it was just the quickest option to go there. So you go in there. And so when I would get in the mornings and go on the elevator and press the second floor for where the ER is, it would take you up to the fourth, and then it would drop you down to the first, and then it would bring you up to the fifth, and then it drop you back down to like the parking garage, and then it would bring you up to the third. I'm like, what in the world is going on? I'm like, okay, well now this explains why this thing's under construction all the time. It doesn't work. Oh my God, I can't believe this thing. And you know, working for a while at any hospital, you very quickly figure out that every hospital is haunted. It can't not be.
Sure.
Any place that has that much death, even a pediatric hospital, it's still there's death abound. That's just the way it goes. And so as I was kind of entering a little bit of a spiritual journey, started carrying crystals and kind of like leaning into it a little bit more. And so I would just talk out loud. And so I would get into the elevator, and it would go up and it would go down, and it would be up and go down. I'm like, okay, guys, like I get that you guys are just fooling around, and it's probably kids. So like, okay, I get that you're trying to fool around and you're trying to play, and it's very funny. I get it. Haha. But I really do need to get to work. And then all of a sudden it would go down to two, no problem. And every single time that I didn't talk and I was getting in this elevator, it would do the same thing. It would play and it would go up and down. And then when I would say, okay, guys, haha, very funny. Can I just go down to work, please? It would 100% then go right back down to two. And it's not like any of the other buttons were hit or lit up, or some kid came in and did like the elf where they hit all the buttons kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was just me, and I had pressed the one button, and that was it. And so it was when I started opening up about it, then other people would be like, oh yeah, no, for 100%, we've all been doing this for years. And that that elevator is particularly haunted, and because um the PICU, so the pediatric ICU, is right above the ER. And so it shares that elevator, and that elevator comes out right to the PICU.
Mm.
And so I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense now. Okay, well, note to self, I will just, so yeah, I would talk, and then I'd tell other people that I'd talk, and they go, oh, okay. they go, I'll have to try that next time. And sure enough, they do it and go into that elevator and they come out and be like, Jen, oh my God, I talked to them and then it went to 2. And I'm like, I told you. It's just spirit being funny and
Yeah,
playing because they're
just
more
having
than
fun.
likely kids' spirits and just, why not? And same thing with like trying to lay down in a hospital. There's very few places that you can lay down for your nap and on your break. And one of the places was day surgery, which was kind of in the back end of where the ER was. And did not get good vibes from that place at all. It creeped me the hell out.
Oh man. How do you find a way to balance the, having your home life, your kids and everything, and then working 12-hour night shifts?
Yeah. It becomes a little funny, right? So my kids, I say, oh, I'll say goodnight to them, when I go to work, but I'm leaving at like 6 p.m. So they're still up and running around and playing and whatever. And so I'm like, okay, I gotta go, bye. And so I'll do my night shift. I'll come back and then, I'll say like, oh, how was your night? And oh, we'll snuggle in the morning and that kind of thing. And then, they get ready for breakfast and we put them on the bus and everything. And then I go to bed. But I'm sure that they must just think that it's the weirdest thing in the world for mom to be gone all night and then come back in the morning and be exhausted
Yeah.
and like want nothing more than to just pass out on the couch. Um, and so they'll be like, Mommy, why are you drinking wine at 8 in the morning? I'm like, because this is my 8 p.m. baby. This is my 8 p.m. Mama's allowed wine after a night shift. That's a thing. It's not a shower beer, but it's definitely like the kids are there eating breakfast and I've got my glass of wine. And like the number of times that I've like, maybe I just go, do I go to the bus stop with them with the glass of wine? Probably not. That would probably not look so great. But a lot of the other parents who are there dropping off are also shift workers. So at least my kids hear other kids' stories about their parents being shift workers and they kind of, I'd hate for them to feel like my mom's the only one who works during the night kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's a little backwards. And then they're like, oh, but you get days off during the week. I said, yes, but I'm like, so like tonight I have to nap before I go into my night shift. That's just how I prepare and that's what I do. But I'll get up so that I can make dinner and we can kind of hang out and get ready to go before I go and leave tonight. But they, they're asking more often than not, like, oh, do you work tonight? Do you work tonight? Do you work tonight? Are you working tonight? Like, I'm like, no, like, I'm like, look at the calendar. Do you see a big N on the calendar for a night shift? No, you do not. So we're cool. Like, oh, okay. But every night they're like, are you going to work? I'm like, do I look like I'm dressed for work? And I said, no, I do not. Like, is mom in scrubs? Like, yes, I'm in scrub bottoms because I swear to God, that's all I have now. Like
I have
mom's
no
wearing
wardrobe now.
I'm like, mom's got a nice top on. They go, oh, yeah. I'm like, okay. But yeah, it's kind of very interesting fine line. And I mean, they're starting to understand more and more that, mom needs to sleep. And so on the weekends, my husband will kind of take them out of the house to keep the volume down to a minimum. But, truly at this point, it's you get pretty used to sleeping with, the TV blaring and the kids running around and screaming and being kids. And I tell them, if at any point you want to come in and snuggle with mom, you can come in and snuggle with mom. Just do not wake me up. Like, and so, every now and again I'll feel them kind of come in and they just really like the warmth, I'm sure. And then so they just like come in and cuddle for a bit. They're like, okay, bye, mom. And like they're off and running. I'm like, okay, bye. It's just one of those things where I wonder how much therapy I should be saving up for, because every now and again they'll hear me do a podcast and they're like, what? I'm like, nothing. I'm like, just shush. I'm on a podcast. Like, just be quiet. I love you. And so then my daughter will like sneak me notes like beside like under the computer to be like, can I go outside and play? And I'm like, so I'm like trying to talk. I'm like, yeah, like just and trying to like write a note to be like, I don't care, go. It's a very interesting dynamic, and especially, writing the book and kind of putting myself out there that way. So it's not just a very cut and dry mom's a nurse answer. It's mom's an author, mom's a business owner, mom's a nurse, mom, does all sorts of things. So It's it'll be interesting to see what they remember 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Other than
How old are
mommy
your
was
kids
busy.
now?
Sorry?
How old are your kids now?
Oh, so they're not just about 9 and 10 and a half. So
Okay.
they're well with it. This is my daughter's. She's decided to set up her own office because I'm always in my office. And so my sister bought her a keyboard because she kept stealing my keyboard. So now she's like, "Oh, mommy, I did a page of writing this morning." I'm like, "Okay, look, I love you so much. It's adorable." I'm
So
like,
cute.
"But just because I'm doing it doesn't mean you need to do it unless you like doing it." Like that kind of thing. But it's weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, trying to find the balance, I guess, right?
There's no balance. There's just every day you're just kind of winging it as
Yeah.
best you can and going like, okay, what's taking precedence is, being really present with the kids, being super present, or are they kind of off doing their own thing and I can kind of sneak in a little bit of work here, there, and everywhere. Um, that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden they're like in your face, you're like, you're on your phone too much. I'm like, I'm answering emails. They're like, oh, I want to play with you. And I'm like, where were you 3 seconds ago? You were up in your room playing on your iPad, doing your own thing, playing with your friends, whatever. So like, do I need to, how present am I being with you not even in the room? Like, I don't understand.
For sure. I like to ask my guests, how do you define fun?
Fun is having my brain shut off. So being able to just kind of decompress and not have to worry about taking care of somebody. It's usually key. So these mornings now with the kids at school and I'm night shift, so I'm just like, it's silent. Like nobody's running around. The house is gonna be a disaster anyway, so I don't care. But it's just one of these things where, I can stop and, maybe I can write or maybe I can just do what I want. Half of fun as a parent is just I can actually do what I want to do. And that's fun these days.
Hmm.
Mind you, going to Universal and going through Hogwarts and Hogsmeade also was like so much joy.
I imagine, yeah,
Oh,
definitely. I also like to ask my guests what their play personality is. According to the Institute of Play, there's 8 play personalities. There's the Joker, the kinesthetic, the competitor, the storyteller, the explorer, the creative, the director, and the collector. And you can be more than one.
I'm probably the creative and the storyteller for sure.
That makes sense.
Um, yeah.
You wrote a book.
I wrote a book, so I'm like, well, and it's all of my stories. So that's it's probably where that lands most. And, being able to a lot of education in nursing is actually just storytelling.
Mm.
And, here's my story about pancreatitis. So like you don't make the same mistakes I did. Or here's my crazy story from the other night when this bride came in super drunk on an EMS stretcher. And when I came up the hall, all I could see was legs flailing and Tool. And I'm going, what in the world is going on at 3 a.m.? And I'm like, oh, a drunk bride on a EMS stretcher. I'm like, I did not see that one coming today. And so there's ER career life bingo, and you're like, weird, weird happening of the day. We're just mark that one off.
When you come home, like, and greet your husband, does he ask what
No,
weird thing happened today?
no.
No.
He used to be EMS, so and now he's infection control. So he's Monday to Friday, kind of 8 to 4. He is in the hospital, but it's been easily a decade since, or more than a decade actually. It's probably almost been 20 years since he was actually on working a truck as a paramedic versus
Mm.
a supervisor. Um, but he doesn't ask. Like,
Because he
if
knows. He's
he
experienced
knows,
it
and half the
himself.
time he knows, he's like, don't even look at her because she's just going to tear you to shreds because I'm exhausted and now I have to stay up for, another hour when all I want to do is crawl into bed and I can't have coffee because I'm going to go to bed. So, here's a glass of wine. And he knows if it's been a really, really bad shift, if I text him before I come home, be like, I need a bottle of wine on the stairs, as I come into the house, like outside. Like I need glass bottle. That is what I need outside when I'm coming in because oh my God. And so usually he knows if I want to talk about something, I'll come to him and he kind of leaves it that way. Um just because he knows like if it was truly an absolute crap shift where it was like just heavily traumatic, I'm probably not going to want to talk about it for a good while unless I want to like unless I'm angry about something, then I want to vent
Sure.
and get his opinion because he's also medical to be like, I can't believe this person and go off about it. And but usually 9 times out of 10, he's actually already gone for work by the time I coming home. So the kids are alone for maybe 20 minutes, I think, by the time he leaves and then I finish driving home. So
Mhm.
it's just like, passing each other in the night kind of thing. You're just like 2 ships in the night. Woo. You're just okay, bye. See you. It's really hard on marriage to be a straight night shift worker and then also doing the business end of things and disappearing for 2 different conferences in a month and he's holding down the fort. So I will give him kudos for holding down the fort while I got to go to Orlando and then Vegas.
Sounds fun. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I gotta go the book and I gotta sell the things and I'm sorry. So we're for my 40th, which is coming up in March. The joke originally was that we were supposed to go to Europe for his 40th, but his 40th was 2021.
Oh.
So, or no, 2020. And so everything was already starting to shut down and it was just a gong show. So I'm like, oh, I guess that's not happening. So now that it's almost my turn, I'm kind of waiting. There's a book deal that's the Vegas trip. There was to do a magnet hospital in the US that wants 6,000 of my books, which
Mm.
would effectively completely change my world with the commission. So I'm like, I'm really hoping that goes through because that will be, you know, Europe a week or two, 2, 3, 4 times over. So really, really hoping that that goes through and everybody holds up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Like truly.
Well, definitely wish you luck on that.
Thank you. It's one of those things where because the book's not technically out, I'm a little hesitant to send the invoice for it just yet because technically you can't even order the book. So
Mm.
so December 1st is when the book is supposed to be out and ready for purchase on Amazon. And I feel bad because I've already had to push it twice just because editing is taking longer than anticipated. And then she's like, oh, and then you need a typesetter. I'm like, a typesetter. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, how many more people do I have to pay to like publish this book? Oh my God.
Oh,
So it's been a long journey. It's been, almost 3 years now to finally get it published and in hand and done. And it's pretty much just the universe's way of trying to let me know that they still control all the things. And this is my lesson in patience and healing.
yeah, for sure. But wow, close. It's so close.
So close. As long as editing is done by like the 24th, so that maybe the typesetter, he's already got half of it done because I've already had half the edits done. So I'm just waiting for the other half. I'm like, please, you've had it for 3 months. Like, oh my God, please.
Let's go.
I love what you're doing and it's so well edited, but like, oh my God, I'm dying. Please just let me publish the damn. That will be my fun is finally getting the book and having a physical book in hand
Definitely.
that is ready to rock and roll.
Oh yeah, 100%. That'd be so exciting. Especially after all of this, right? Yeah.
Everything. So yeah, it'll be it'll be interesting to say the least to see what next year holds.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to respect your time. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
on. Where can the audience find you?
Yeah, so they can find me at rxforgrowth.com. You can find me on LinkedIn at Jennifer Johnson, BSCNRN. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at ernurse.jen, Jenn. And if you search me up on Amazon under Jennifer A. Johnson RN, you can find my nursing intuition book. You can find all my journals because, Christmas is coming and so is Nursing Week always. So yeah, just if you've got a nurse in your life that you think needs some love, that would be great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was so much fun. I could have talked for so much longer.
I know. I get chatting is what the problem is because I never have enough time at work to chat with people. So it's so nice to actually have dedicated time where I'm expected to do nothing but talk.
Yeah. Totally. But I mean, you have so much like interesting things to say that I'm just like, tell me more about this.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.
It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to my nap.
Oh, I bet.